and welcome back to Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen. It's another edition, and we have an agency we're going to be interviewing today. So we're going to let you guys take it away and introduce yourselves.
Hey, so I'm Charlene. I'm co-founder of Carrying Hope, and this is Nicole. So I'm a two-time surrogate, and Nicole can definitely tell about her.
So I'm Nicole,
I'm
also co-founder. I'm a three-time surrogate, and I also have 3 children of my own. And what we do, we work from home and get to meet a lot of people. And
so the question that we always ask everybody that comes on is, how did you guys get involved with surrogacy? Like, how did you find out about it, both of you?
So I have my own fertility journey that really didn't lead me to surrogacy. However, once I learned about surrogacy, to me, it was like an instant no-brainer. Like, oh my gosh, I absolutely need to do this. I am fully capable. Obviously, my uterus was great. For those that don't know my story, I have 1 tube, 1 ovary, and they're opposite. So I had an ectopic pregnancy that ruptured. So a lot of damage was done, but my uterus itself was okay. So I did ultimately have my 3 children, but it did take some struggles to get them here, but now they're here. And then afterwards, it kind of just rang on my head and on my heart. And then I started to look into it when I had a friend with some struggles, and I was like, okay, maybe I can actually help her. And so we kind of looked into it. Long story short, that whole path didn't work out. And then my husband was like, well, why don't you do it for somebody else? I'm like, do it for a stranger? Like somebody I don't know? Like, what do? Just knock on somebody's door and be like, hey, can I carry your baby? No. So that's when my whole like agency research, and it kind of got a lot more in depth. And I've carried twice now for 2 different families. So,
oh my gosh, that's so awesome though.
Stories are all so different on how people hear about this and get involved in it. That's always fascinates me.
Nicole, what about you? How'd you come to surrogacy?
I had kids very young, and which meant I just kind of started hanging out with people who were a little bit older than me because they had children. And so I couldn't tell you how I actually really knew or heard about surrogacy, but I can tell you when I first thought about it. I was about 19 or 20. I had a friend who had 3 children, and with each pregnancy, her postpartum depression just got worse and worse to the point where she locked herself out of the house and locked her baby inside of its room so that she wouldn't harm him, and would wait for her husband to get home. And I knew she wanted a 4th, hopefully maybe to try for a girl, because she had 3 boys. And that's when I first thought about it, but it was just not something that I knew too much about, and didn't know if it was something that I was capable of doing in general. And then I had my last baby, and then I worked with somebody who was struggling with IVF, had no idea about, standing beside her, just talking about how easy it is for me to get pregnant, so a bit naive in that sense. And then eventually she shares her story publicly, talks about how she had IVF, and has had, like failed transfers and stuff. And so that's when I seriously started considering. I was probably 5 years older than when I first started to think about it. So I had already brought it up to my husband, but we didn't really talk too much in depth about it. And then I was like, hey, do you mind if I offer to carry for her? And she was not at that point yet, where she wanted to explore other options, first, but also for her, she didn't think she could afford surrogacy. So it just wasn't something that she was capable of doing. And since I already had it in my head and my mind made up, I actually started researching egg donation. And then I came across surrogacy agencies, and I realized I just personally could not be an egg donor. And so I went through an agency, and then I carried 2 times for the same couple, brother and a sister. And then I did my 3rd and last journey. So that's really, I guess, what brought me. People say, oh, you must love being pregnant. I was like, not really. I was like, I don't hate it and I don't love it, but I'm capable. Right. So I figured, since I was blessed with 3, my goal was, if everything went well, to also give 3. And so now Charlene and I are what we call retired uteruses. We're not going to have anymore.
Did you both use agencies for all? I think it's 5, right? 2 and 3, 5 surrogacies. Yes.
I did for my first journey, used an agency. Second journey, I did not. I went the independent route, as at that time, Nicole and I were starting Carrying Hope, and I definitely didn't want to give anyone the wrong impression. Other agencies, I didn't want them feeling some sort of way, or like I was trying to spy on how they do things. And so I just thought it was, even though it's a much harder route,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to go independent. I thought that was just the safest way to go and not cause any rift with anybody. So I went independent second.
Okay.
Nicole did it a little differently.
I did do an agency, well, not really. I did an agency the first time, and since it was a sibling for the second time, and there was nothing in their agency agreement that stated they had to use another one, I was really comfortable with them. So we did independent the second time. And then for my third time, yes, technically I used an agency. It just happened to be my agency. But,
That's
um,
cool.
so I mean, I
Cool.
coordinated my own, journey, and whatnot. But
Were you the
yeah.
first? Were you the first surrogate baby in your agency? No. Okay. Okay.
Baby number
That would've been
9.
cool.
Baby
Yeah.
number 9. Oh, that's
Ooh.
fun.
Yeah, wasn't quite. I had just given birth actually when we decided to start carrying home. So I
We
was only
both
like
did, really.
6 weeks postpartum or something.
Yeah. We both had just delivered when we finally said, let's do this. And we took off with it.
Oh, I have a question leading into that, but first, because then we can stop talking about that particular part. But were your pregnancies healthy? Like, was your surrogate, like, you guys were okay? Like, you guys just chose to stop? Like, nothing forced you to stop?
You want me to go first? So mine's a
Yeah.
little more complicated. So
Uh-huh.
Nicole was a number, right? Like she's reached kind of that cap number,
Sure,
didn't
yeah.
want to push it, I think. And I don't want to speak for Nicole, but for me, technically, I could have done one more, but I'm also older. I'm a good bit older than Nicole. And though I'm still technically not aged out yet, I definitely felt different the second time around. And we did deal with a couple, not complications that were disqualifying, but very unique scenarios that came up in my pregnancy with the last one. And it was just kind of a, I don't want to risk that again.
Yeah.
So we dealt with severe anemia to the point where I was actually hospitalized for a very short while and was going to the cancer center 3 times a week for iron infusions. When you're walking in with a big old belly to the cancer center and all these eyes are staring at you and you're like, don't feel bad for me. Like, honestly, this is just iron. This is just ferritin. Like, don't,
Right.
it was kind of just a, yeah.
Why did you have to go to the cancer center? Maybe I'm just uneducated. Why were they sending you there?
So the level of ferritin bags and infusions that they were doing and everything, like it had to go through this whole process, just like they do with cancer treatment medications and chemo bags and stuff. And so like they wouldn't even prep the bags until I was checked in and I had to wait. And so it wasn't like this real quick, let's just go get an infusion at the lab or the doctor's office or something. It was like this big ordeal because it was extremely concentrated amounts of iron and ferritin and all of that. And it had everything to do with the baby and the placenta specifically. It's a very unique situation, but it ended up leading to copper toxicity and
Oh
just,
my gosh.
yeah, which was a little just very weird, very unique. I've actually never heard of anybody else having it. But the copper toxicity kind of got a bit up there and a little scary. And so hematologists got involved and it was kind of a, we probably need to talk about early delivery. And I was like, no, baby's fine. Like baby's fine. I will keep going and getting these like baby needs to keep baking, like we're not
Yeah.
ready. There was several times where I went to Nicole, like, I'm going crazy. Like I hear my kids screaming my name down the hallway, but I know I took them to school and they're not here. So I feel like I'm going crazy because copper toxicity can actually lead to a little bit of psychosis. And it was like I was starting to see and hear things. And I knew that it was this condition going on, but you're like in this mental struggle of like, I know this isn't real, but it sure feels real, and it was a little crazy. So I'm like, I just don't want to do this again. And
Yeah.
so
Blame you.
no.
How
So
scary.
did everything regulate back after delivery? I mean, it probably took a little time, but it
It
regulated
did,
back.
yeah. So it was very heavily monitored because the copper levels were so high. The hematologist was actually like, I want to get you in for a scan. Like these are signs of like cancer and things are going on. And as soon as I delivered, it was within a few days. I went to the first appointment. We're doing a bunch of blood work and then coming up with a plan. And then blood work was like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of improvement. Let's just monitor. And so, yeah, and I haven't had any iron issues
Oh, good.
or any copper issue, like nothing since. And
weird.
so they actually did this whole like pathology thing on the placenta as well. My doctor could probably better explain what all that is. But it was determined that it really just had all to do with the placenta for some reason.
Wow. That's a trip.
So
That's fascinating. We could do a whole podcast just on that. But
I'm
okay.
gonna call you back, Charlene.
There's a few things I could probably
Oh my
do a
gosh.
podcast for. So that was mine. That's why I did not end up doing a sixth. It just wasn't
Okay.
quite worth the risk. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I don't blame
not at
you.
all.
I would have
Yeah.
done the same thing. Yikes. Whew.
yeah.
And Nicole, what about you?
No, my pregnancies were relatively easy. There was a mental aspect of it just because I gained a significant amount of weight with each pregnancy, regardless of what I do. Never had gestational diabetes or anything like that. And mentally, it was taxing to have to lose all the weight just to gain it all back. My last pregnancy was pregnancy number 6, and so I did develop symphysis pubis dysfunction I developed it early 30s, but I got pretty bad at like 37 weeks to the point that I couldn't even, like, if I kicked a t-shirt, it would just shoot pain up my, pelvis. I couldn't really like roll over in bed without pain. I couldn't really actually drive without pain shooting up. Fortunately, I was induced 2 weeks later. And like I could do like physical therapy and stuff for it, but I knew I was gonna have the baby soon, so I just didn't feel like it was worth spending the money and taking the time when I was already in so much discomfort. And so that would be like one of the reasons, or several reasons, that I just chose not to. And also I just felt like, like I said, I had 3, I wanted to give 3. I do have a clinic who adores me and would love for me to do it again. But I just chose that I've played with fate, long enough that I was lucky enough that I had uncomplicated, pregnancies, and that it was just kind of time for me to get back to, my life and, play out a different chapter. And part of the reason why we kind of developed Carrying Hope too, we wanted to stay in the surrogacy world. So I mean, it's kind of addicting, if I'm honest.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It is. In the best way, is it addicting? But I love how you wrapped it back, because that was going to be my next question. How in the world did y'all meet? Because like you guys, were you friends before you guys became surrogates? Like, how did this form?
Through surrogacy. So
Really?
Nicole's second journey was at the same time as my first journey.
Okay.
Second year.
And so, as many of your listeners probably know, there are transfer groups on social media. And so once I reached a certain point in my first journey, I said, okay, now I'm ready to go. Like I knew the warning signs, like I don't want to go in and then see all the failed transfers and like get discouraged. So I waited until I had heartbeat confirmation and felt comfortable joining. So I joined the groups, and there was a particular post about one of my children that I had just shared, because oftentimes we just share about life and not journey stuff.
Yeah.
And Nicole could relate. And then we somehow ended up private messaging. And then it was like private messaging all day long, every day. And sometimes in like 3 or 4 different, like we'd have text messages going up, but Facebook Messenger, then we had Pinterest messages going. Like it's all over the place. And we just, too many things in our life like really aligned. And it just kind of, I don't know how, it just makes sense. Like I don't know how it couldn't form.
You live in the same state or no? No. Okay then. All through the internet. All right. Awesome.
Yeah, we're 7 hours apart. She's in North Carolina. I live in Virginia.
Okay. All right. So, but all Eastern though. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How old is your agency then? When was it born?
Last Friday we hit 5 years.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
January 19th, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
So right before COVID.
And, yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
Like a year, right?
Oh,
2019? Yeah. A year. Okay.
Good timing. Good timing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 It was a little nerve-wracking. Because last thing you think of, oh, let's prepare in case a pandemic happened. Now that's like casual business planning.
Yeah.
But at that time, that wasn't anything pandemic was a word most people didn't even know how to define. Like they just
Yeah.
yeah. So COVID hit in February of 2020, which is actually when I delivered on my second journey, and had just decided that, okay, I am gonna do this full time and I'm not going back to like my real job or my day job, and I even still have like a little note Nicole wrote me when I finally like made it official that I'm working from home 100% CHS only. And then the pandemic hit, and it was just like, okay, let's see what ride we're going for. And we grew 400% that year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a lot of other agencies are struggling and they're looking towards the government for money and assistance and programs and cutting back, and we blew up.
Why do you think you grew so much?
A number of reasons. I think pricing wise, at the time we were definitely one of the lowest fee agencies. I
Okay.
think also relatability in that Nicole and I both were surrogates. And, by the time we had brought another person on staff, she also was a surrogate, a multiple time surrogate. So there
Mhm.
was just a lot of experience and knowledge. So we didn't have any challenges finding surrogates and connecting with women who were interested in surrogacy. And so our match times were pretty much immediate. I mean,
'Cause we
intended
had kind of
parents.
a wait list for surrogates actually when we first opened. So obviously that's pretty
That's
rare.
cool.
So,
That's not the norm
No.
at
It's
all.
not, but we're new, and so it's hard when you're new to try to convince the paying client who has to
Yeah.
pay so much money that we promise, like, we have all good intentions, and we will do this, and here's the agreement and all of that, and that we're legit. We're not a pop up. We're not going to take your money and run and leave
Yeah.
you high and dry, and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
and eventually it just sort of built up, and word started getting out and around, and we've grown significantly. So
Did you? How many babies born through the agency?
111.
Oh my word. In
Yeah.
5 years?
Technically, the first baby wasn't actually born until the end of June of 2020. So in
That's
4.5
astounding.
years, that's how many deliveries.
Like, dear God, because babies take 9 months. Like, I know
Right.
our readers know, I know our listeners know that. And stuff.
Readers, we have readers.
Sorry.
Okay.
Viewers. Sure.
I'm thinking
put
something else.
caption on the new breeders.
Don't make us do a different type of platform, Mom. I don't have the
That's
time.
phenomenal. And were all of those, I mean, did you have one that complications or just crazy, or pretty much all of them just kind of went according to plan with maybe a little hiccup here and there?
Our agency has been through some stuff.
Okay.
We've experienced definitely some unfortunate. I mean,
Yeah.
surrogacy is not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not all unicorns and sprinkles, right? There's definitely some ups and downs, and luckily there's a lot more ups than there are downs, but when those downs happen, they hit hard. And our team feels it. I mean, we've been through some stuff, but our team's amazing. Like, we will stay strong for, the GC and or the IP and help them through all that. But then we will come together as a team and be like, this freaking sucks. And we will just kind of help each other through it. And so there have been some unfortunates, and it's just out of our control. It's even out of the surrogate's control. These things just, they happen sometimes. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes we have to call each other and cry to each other, So I mean, we're humans too. So I mean,
Yep.
we go close to these people, and then of course we want just the best for everybody. So when you have a surrogate calls you crying hysterically or whatever, you have to try to stay calm. And then, you get off the phone and you're just like, whew, so we're really good support people, for our
That's
team,
great.
not us, meaning like my whole team. They're there for each other.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's great though. That's
Do you do international and stateside, or just one right now?
So we work with international intended parents, but all of our surrogates are US based.
Yeah, I didn't phrase that right. Right. Yeah. So you do stateside and international.
Do
Okay.
you work with all surrogate friendly states?
All except New York. We are not licensed in New York right now. We're not too interested in getting licensed in New York just yet. There's
stuff.
New York has come a long way, and I think it's fantastic that they've made the progress they have, but I do think there's still some room for improvement. And we don't have a whole lot of interest of surrogates in New York to specifically run through all those, hoops.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you work with LGBTQ community?
a lot.
Oh, good.
A lot.
We just got to make sure. We got to ask that. Make sure that that's a thing. Because you'd be surprised
Absolutely.
how many don't.
really?
Yeah.
What's your cutoff age? I'm curious.
So our application, if you were to go online, is 42. So if you were to be 43 years old and apply, it is going to automatically DQ you.
Okay.
However, our intake coordinator, Larissa, she's 4-time surrogate, been with us for a long time. She's really good about going in there and looking at the person as an individual and just not letting that go into the, disqualified list. And she's going to look. And if they've had a recent delivery or their experienced surrogate and stuff, she's going to take those into account. And she usually comes to us and just say, hey, I'd like to at least do a consult with her and just kind of get a feel for if she's a good fit or not. I mean, if it's been 16, 18 years since she's had a delivery, we're not going to get any records. And so getting a clinic to approve, and just there's a lot of risk there because there's so much unknown in her medical history that would be recent and important for a journey. So she definitely takes it in case by case. But
That's nice.
so I mean, we have a surrogate right now who's a 45 on her third journey.
No
Or
way, is
I think
she
she'll be
that?
45 next month, I think it is. But
Okay.
yeah, she's about to be.
Oh my
That's
gosh, so
awesome.
excited for her. Oh, there's hope.
Yeah. And that's her third journey with us, actually. So she's done.
All three with you?
Mhm.
Well, that's
Bam,
a
bam,
testament to
bam.
who you are.
Mm-hmm. And
She's-
three babies in like 5 years, or little over 5.
I know she's a rock star. I know. I'm like, she's a little bit older than me. Not a whole lot. I don't know if I could do that. She's amazing, but she is one who truly loves being pregnant. She just loves the way she feels being pregnant, and it's
Aw,
knock on wood, it comes really easy for her. She says so.
Yeah.
that's great. Help somebody
Wow.
else. I love it.
Yeah.
Nicole's like, yeah.
Nicole's like, she bounced back like it was nothing. That's what Nicole's thinking.
Oh,
Yeah, she's so cute, so little. She's like, I feel huge. I'm like, where's the baby?
Oh my gosh, I envy women that can just be like,
Uh.
oh, look at this tiny bump. I'm like, oh, okay. I get it
Never.
everywhere. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all
No, we
good.
love her. She's so patient and calm and understanding and so flexible. Like we just love her. I think didn't she applied like at 39 or 40, so
For
you know,
her first time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Her.
She was 40, approaching 41. I think when we actually made her snapshot, I do believe it said 41 for her first
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Awesome. Good for her. Because when I was doing it, like there was a definite cutoff. Like you couldn't be over 40. They were like, nope. They just put you in a pile and said, no, you can't do it. And I was like, that's not fair.
Wow.
How many
Really?
years ago?
I
Yeah.
wonder what ultimately made ASRM change, or maybe ASRM came into play. I don't know.
Maybe
Maybe
studies.
just
I don't know.
people getting educated, because uteruses aren't old after. It depends on how many babies have been in there. Like seriously, yeah. So I wanted to go past 40, and I did my last one. I hit 40. I was 41, and that was it. And I was like, well, can I do it again? They're like, yeah, no. Oh, really? I must have went to 7 agencies. Yeah, no, you're 41. Oh, okay. So
Wow.
I'm glad to hear that that's a thing now, that people are actually considering older people. Good for
I
them.
judge you for doing that twice. Whatever. You almost died twice, but you're whatever. Freaking Charlene's over here and she has to like go get infusions and stuff. And she's like, no, I see the bad signs. I'm going to stop. And you're like, oh, I was on my deathbed twice and I'll keep going. Whatever. She was. I'm not even exaggerating. She really was.
Well, didn't you have like twins or triplets or something? You had triplets or something?
I had triplets. Yeah. That was the best pregnancy though. That was the best one.
Oh, really? That wasn't your deathbed one?
No, it was one of them. That was one of
Dang.
them.
I mean, that if I had to guess, that would have been one of them.
Yeah,
I just
it
needed
was.
a transfusion on that one. That's okay. No big deal. No big deal.
Like it didn't matter that it was just replenishing the blood I lost. No,
Right. There you go. There you go.
No big deal at all.
minor details,
Not a
minor
big
details.
Brr.
How is a surrogate's compensation determined? Are you guys like it's like this for first time, this for second time? Do they get to come and kind of negotiate? Like how does it work? Because every agency is different.
Mhm.
Yeah. So with our agency, we do have a base compensation package for first time surrogates.
Sure.
So we educate them on everything and make sure they're comfortable. We have had surrogates in the past who come to us and say, well, why should I work with Carrying Hope when agency XYZ in such and such a state offers X amount? If financially that is your main motivation, we're probably not the agency for you, because we do try to encourage a much different journey than a transactional journey. And so we have found over the years that we have kind of been in a good sweet spot where we still have plenty of women apply and express interest, but we've been able to kind of limit the high ends and the low ends. The low ends, we've seen them. Oh, I'll be willing to do it for this. And it's just, they're so desperate to do this journey, but they're really not in the right position to be able to do this. Like, I get your heart is there, but you're not in the right appropriate position to be able to do this.
Sure.
And so
Wow.
right now, our base compensation for a first time surrogate is 45,000.
Okay.
I say right now, because obviously the market always changes. So if somebody's watching this 3 years from now, it's likely not going to still be 45,000, right?
Right.
But that is currently what it sits at. When we have an experienced surrogate come to us and somebody who's completed a journey, whether with us or not, we do try to encourage them to stay within that 5,000 to 10,000 increase from their previous journey. But we've also had them where their previous journey was 5 and 8 years ago.
Oh,
5 to 10,000 more might not even be what a first time is making right now.
Mhm.
So we
Right.
definitely kind of
Yeah,
coach
mine
them
would've-
through it, but we don't dictate that for them.
okay. Okay. And you had said you encourage a certain type of journey. So what do you want to elaborate, like what kind of journey it is that you guys then encourage?
Yeah. So I don't know if Nicole wants to talk. I feel like I'm doing it all.
No,
So,
like it's fine.
so
cute.
we like to encourage the ideal journey, which can look different for everybody, right? But the majority of surrogates and intended parents that come to us want to be able to build an organic relationship and have open communication with the other party. They don't want to have to go through an agency. They don't want to have to work only through an app to communicate. They don't want the agency always being in on the communicate. Like, go chit chat, get to know each other, have fun. Just don't talk about money. Don't talk about the legal contract.
Yeah.
You know, we've got people in place for that, because those are the two quickest things to ruin any relationship
Totally.
through a surrogacy journey. So go talk about the weather, talk about kids, talk about your weekend plans, whatever, have fun. You know, if you guys want to plan and meet up, by all means, go and do that. But also, if that's not in your comfort zone, that's okay too. Just let us know so that we can match you appropriately. We don't want to match a GC who really wants a super close relationship with, maybe it's a single mother who's super busy and she's like, look, I'm going to be working my tail off this journey so that I can work less once baby's here or something, and doesn't want a whole lot of communication, you know, then that's probably not the right fit.
Sure. If a situation arises though, right? And communication is now lacking or is like complicated or is
Yeah.
strained, the relationship becomes strained. Do you guys step in and try and like mediate?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often with our
No,
agency,
yeah.
I'll be honest.
Which
We're
is
real
good.
good at matching. I
Yeah.
think if you talk to our surrogates, I think a lot of them would even say that, intended parents as well. But it does happen from time to time, especially when the primary means of communication is in text, right?
Yeah.
You can't always read tone, and sometimes somebody's in a hurry in responding, or they just don't know how to take it, or maybe that relationship really hasn't just developed yet, and so they don't really know how to receive that message.
Right.
So we usually encourage people, hey, let's have a phone call. Like, let's call, or let's say, hey, would you be free to FaceTime? Would love to just kind of connect face to face, or, you know, and encourage that first if we think that it really is just kind of a tone and still needing to get to know each other. But we absolutely will step in. We will help mediate.
We're an agency that we have a coordinator for each, so we have a surrogate coordinator and we have an intended parent coordinator, and we did that on purpose so that we didn't have anybody who's put in a tricky situation, because I mean, in general in life, it's just natural to maybe be drawn to one person more so than the other, or, you know, depending on how communication is, you might communicate with one person more than the other. And so it was kind of important to us, well, not kind of, it was important for us to kind of have the surrogate feel like she kind of had her advocate, and you know, the intended parents had their advocate. And it's in by no means where like these coordinators then get together and then try to plead a case who's right, who's wrong. It's more or less we share details with each other and we try to come up with a solution, you know, and then like, you know, Charlene said, it could be we do a video call or we do a phone call, or, you know, we try to see what we can do to save the relationship, you know, if it's possible to save, because it can be tone, it can be a misunderstanding, it could just, I mean, it really, we could name everything. It could be really anything that, you know, maybe somebody's struggling with something personal that they, you know, just, yeah. So, I mean, I feel like that's just how we do things. But yes, we will step in if needed. It's especially if they tell us. I mean, we don't always know that somebody doesn't tell us, and we have to do it in a way like sometimes the intended parent reach out and she wants to make it look like that she's not complaining, you know, about her surrogate, or you know, so it can be tricky
Yeah.
because you don't want to mention something that you know that they only said to the intended parents and never told us. You know, so
We don't want to seem
Yeah.
like they're tattling, but we also don't want the GC or the IP to feel like we're micromanaging and overstepping. And so we do have to very cautiously and carefully, you know, approach certain things. You know, it's one thing when you have maybe a same-sex male couple who's like, I know we talked about breast milk on the match call, but I don't know, being that it's 9 months later, that I feel comfortable asking if she's still willing to. Would you mind approaching that? Yeah, that's totally fine. Don't mind doing it. But then it's
Yeah.
another when you have intended parents who might feel some sort of way or are triggered by some sort of event or something, and they are kind of spiraling a little bit with their nerves and emotions. And that needs to be validated, because what they're feeling or thinking is very real to them. And it may not actually be the case for the GC. And they know that and they're recognizing that, but they need our help to check on that and just sort of verify what's going on, or that she is going to go, maybe she had to reschedule an appointment and it like freaks them out and they're worried now she's not going to go to an appointment or something, things like that. So we're just going to check on her. Hey, I hope everything's okay. We heard you had to reschedule, and we're here if you need to talk, just kind of open that door and just remind her that we're here. We're not trying to like hound her and stress her by any means, but the appointment's important. So
Yeah. So for your matching process, how does it go for you guys? You've got, do you put the intended parents out and the surrogates look through them, or do you actually match one-on-one and say, we'd like you guys to kind of talk? How do you do it?
So we kind of match one-on-one, sort of, kind of.
Do you? Okay.
It's not like we just throw them into a match call and say, oh, here you go, we think you'd be great. Like, they do profiles, they fill them out, and then the intended parent coordinators will get together and we let them know when we have a surrogate. I say we because I primarily deal with the surrogates side. Charlene primarily deals with the intended parent side. So we call them GCCs, our gestational carrier coordinators, will let the IPCs, the intended parent coordinators, know when their surrogate is about ready to match. It could be just we're waiting on an insurance review, or we're going to do a virtual home study. It could be something like we're just waiting on that. And so then they'll start looking at their list, and then they start, they pull from the surrogate's profile, the intended parent's profile, and see how they align and see if they think they'll be, a good fit. Majority of the time we will send the surrogate's profile to the intended parents. And if they would like to meet the surrogate, then we'll send the intended parent's profile to the surrogate. And then if she would like to meet them, then we will facilitate a match call. So I don't know, Charlene, if you want to add anything else to that.
Yeah, so the matching process for us is, it's a little bit more in the sense that we typically have the GC's records pre-approved first at the fertility clinic. The intended parents we think should be a great match for. So when the GCCs come to me and say, hey, we've got surrogate Amy who's almost ready to match. We're just waiting on her PAP. She had it done last week. We should get it any day. Awesome. That's definitely when I get a lot more actively involved with her chat and getting to know her and her profile. Oftentimes I will schedule a call with them even to just go over some things that might not be 100% clear. For example, termination stance is the most common one that I kind of need to just really dig a little deeper, because it's so crucial that I have a good understanding so that I can match her accordingly. Because that's not one thing I'll let anybody compromise on for the sake of matching.
Yeah.
So, I'll get to know them. I'll make some notes on how their interactions are. Our GCCs are really great in taking notes and making like somebody's really super shy, but so super sweet, or, they'll just kind of make these observation notes so that when I do get to matching, I will take those things into consideration, right? If I have a GCC who says, look, this surrogate, she's on top of it, I think she'll be great, but she doesn't need anybody that's going to like constantly check in on her and want a reminder of appointments and stuff. She's a go get them, get it done, knock it out kind of a person. Okay, well then we might not be matching with a particular type of intended parent. Right. You know what I mean? Like if they tend to be a type A, we don't need to match with another type A. There's going to likely be a little bit of headbutting at times. So these are just things we take into consideration. So after the records are approved, that's when I'll go to the intended parents and say, hey, we have a profile we think, she'd be a great potential match. Let us know what you think. And our profiles are full of a lot of information. I've seen many other agencies' profiles, and some really surprise me at how they are pretty bare bones, and ours are not. It goes into a lot of detail in the surrogate, and we always encourage them to share as much as you're comfortable with sharing, because these are not public information in any way, shape, or form. So they will only be sent to one intended parent or couple at a time. Okay. And if they didn't feel it was the right match, then we're going to obviously present it to the next one that we think is a good potential match, and so on. And same for the intended parents. Share as much as you can, because it's not going to be public.
Yeah.
So.
And it's always better to share up front as much as you can, because then when you get to like talking and stuff, then you're not like, oh yeah, I didn't put that in there. Like you're not like caught up in this little web that you've secretly created and like wasn't aware about. Like it's causes problems.
Well, and let's be real, we're in the world of social media. Like everybody's gonna be like, oh, I know my surrogate's name. Let me go Google or Facebook search or Instagram search. You know what I mean? And then they get this whole insight into, I mean, that's just the world we live in now. And so putting a profile and, putting in the effort to do a profile and really putting in the effort to do a profile, there's a difference. And how it's received by the other party there's a difference. So.
And a profile says a lot about that, how much time and detail they've put into it says a lot about who they are too. Like the more you put in, the more you jump off the page.
Exactly.
So when it comes to support then, we talked about it, but like support for your surrogates and IPs, how are your surrogates like supported? So they get to like talk to you guys, they get to talk to their gestational, their GCCs, everything like that. Is there like a support group? Like if they need like, oh, I need to like talk to somebody, like I'm having all these feelings, who are they talking to?
Do you guys like have a Facebook group or something just of your surrogates now?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Once they get medically cleared, they get to, they get invited into the group. Some participate, some just lurk, and some don't need that. And so they may or may not stay in the group, but that is always an option for them. And we have had some, meet up in person. One bought a dog from one, and they kind of just, there's chatting in there. We do try to stay on top of it, to do some like, oh, does anybody have any bump dates, like updates for your bump pictures, or just ask a question. Like there were some questions during like Christmas time, like white lights, colorful lights, whatever. So like doing little polls, but people like answering and talking and stuff. So they do have the other GCs with our agency that they can speak to, and then obviously they have us as well. But if it was something that was a lot more mental and a lot more serious, then we have resources of where we can refer out to if actually needed to.
Does that also apply to postpartum? Like if say postpartum depression sets in for them and they're like, oh my God, like, are you guys still there? When do you guys leave? I guess that's my question. When do you guys part ways?
When the journey is like really truly done, meaning all medical bills are done, escrow can close, and they're still welcome to message us. We had one who it's almost 2 years now since her journey ended, and she's like, hey, there's a new baby in the family. Look at a picture. We're like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, because they're not just a uterus. They're like a human being. They're a mom. They're now a surrogate sister to all of us. You know what I mean? Yeah. And same with intended parents. We have intended parents who still send, holiday gifts and Christmas cards and pictures of like, hey, look at so-and-so at Disney. We took them as their first trip and they got their first ears, like we have Disney fanatic parents and surrogates, but so it's great that these relationships build, but the journey doesn't end until it's truly done. Like everything's done.
Well, a lot of them are friends with us on Facebook too. So like we see their posts, we comment on their posts and vice versa, so
just constantly there. They know that people are there to.
What are your GCCs? What's their caseload like roughly? Do they have a limit of how many they can coordinate, or
average is probably about 30?
Okay.
I guess 30 to 35, depending on their caseload, where they're at in a pregnancy. Yeah. If you've just had like 10 deliver and they're in postpartum, then they can take on, new ones. We probably only had a handful, I break out on one hand, maybe 2 or 3 that kind of had some difficult cases after they gave birth. And it was actually just more of like medical bills situations of having that was very time consuming. Yeah. But otherwise, and for us too, unless a complication arises once they are actually pregnant, they tend to be a lot like more like hands off for us, unless of course, like I said, there's complications that arise. Yeah. But we do we'll check in on them for appointments. Us personally as an agency, we do like to give like trimester gifts to them, and we do. We just check in on them. Of course, if a complication arises, we're checking in them all more. We're not checking on them like every single day, every single week, because we do have surrogates who are kind of like, all right, cool, I'm pregnant, I know what to do. Backing away, like they're just living their life, things like that. So that's probably about the average caseload for them.
Do you guys can I ask? Yeah. Do you guys get together with surrogates and IPs close to the end, or maybe it's in the beginning of the journey, on what the birth plan's going to look like? if they're going to hang out in the same room, if they're going to have separate rooms, like,
Question, Ellen.
oh, come on.
So we actually talk about this during the match calls as well.
Okay.
And, it's something I always preference on the match calls, that these aren't necessarily things you have to know right now and have to
Right.
definitively say, this is only who I want in the delivery room or whatever. Absolutely, things can change, and it can definitely be heavily dependent on how that journey goes and how your communication and relationship builds. But as of right now, where everybody stands on this match call, how do you think you feel? What do you envision? What would you like? And I've had it where, one intended father is like, absolutely, I really want to be in there. If it's okay with you, like, please, I want to be in there. And the other intended father's like, I don't know, a little queasy at the idea. Like, I don't know what I want to see. And so he's just like, can I just like get back to you on that? And, and it was fine. But obviously things can change, right?
Yeah.
People's feelings can be hurt or can feel a different type of way, or, something. I will say that it's pretty rare. It's not common for us to have a GC turn around and say, I don't want anything to do with them. They have to stay out, like any of that, right?
Yeah.
Most of, and I'm going to knock on wood because gosh forbid a shift changes, but I would love that all our journeys just go super smooth and great. Once they reach a certain point in the pregnancy, I send out what's called like a birth plan template. Okay. And it's just to kind of help coach them out. And I send it to both the intended parents and the surrogate. And I ask them to just fill out the portions that are relative to them, send it back. They can either do it together if they want. Many of them do. And some do it individually. And then I combine them, clean it all up, and they can add whatever notes and additions to, and anything that's important to them. And then if it are in a pre-birth order state, I will also attach that and kind of make it one more finalized copy. And we get it to the delivering hospital so that it's on file. And then we send it to them as well to print out and take with them, if they want, and kind of coach them through. And I do have intended parents who are like, I have no idea what to expect after delivery. Like, what to anticipate. And so I have, a whole document written out with links for them to go and research these vaccines and treatments and the hearing test and, all that kind of stuff. So they can learn more about it from somebody other than me, because I'm not an MD. And so here's resources and here's what you can expect, but also, talk to your pediatrician, talk to the delivering hospital, and see what is standard care practice for them. Things like delayed cord clamping. Like, I can give you my personal opinions, but that doesn't matter. You need to find an, educated advice and make your decisions for your family off of that. So there's information and stuff like that to help them plan and prepare.
Kenny and I are real big proponents on
can you wait for that?
We were kind of there, so go ahead.
Well, you got me. I was gonna ask a question. It's fine, do that, and then we can wrap it around. Go ahead.
After birth, right? The surrogate has gone through this whole journey. The IPs have gone through this whole journey. And the surrogate, we feel, Kennedy and I feel that you need closure. Your family needs closure. They've all been through this. You've got kids. They need to see this baby. Now, granted, let's just say it's in a perfect world. It's not COVID. Do you guys suggest or an hour of time just with the surrogate and her family, with the IPs not kind of looking on, so that they can just say goodbye and they could just kind of, wow, this was what's in mommy's tummy? Like, do you guys do any of that? Do you have that in your contract? No. Okay.
So obviously contracts are not through us because we're not attorneys.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? So we do have questions in our profiles that ask, are you comfortable with letting the surrogate see and meet? And are you even comfortable with her children if she feels that that's, so they can answer that question in their own words on the profile, but so can the surrogate. Is that important to her? Would she rather not? We've had surrogates who would rather not. It is pretty rare. I mean, one of the things that I tell intended parents when I meet with them, because I meet with all of them, and I answer all their questions, and oftentimes they're concerned, like, is there going to be an attachment? Like, is that something I need to be leery of if she wants to spend time with the baby? No, our attachment isn't with the baby. We go into this with the goal in mind of helping you become parents, and you need our help to make that goal happen. So our attachment, for way lack of a better word, our bond is built with you as a family, and not with the baby that we're growing. Like, yeah, cool. It's exciting. She's moving. He's tumbling. He's going to be a yoga instructor. Like, there's no doubt about it. Right. But babies here, I'm not like craving to hold baby. I wanted to watch them hold baby. I wanted to see their faces. I wanted to go visit before I left the hospital and watch them interact and cuddle baby. And, talk about how great the first night was, or maybe how rough it was, that kind of thing. So those questions are in the profile so that we can talk about it. But
That's
honestly, if it doesn't align from the very beginning, it doesn't align, and we're not moving forward with the match.
Right.
Okay, fair.
The fact that you have that,
Right.
because I have yet to see that on
Right.
questionnaires, like, oh, like how
Let
do
me
you
show
feel?
you, Kennedy.
No, but no,
There.
we
ask
really
this a lot.
appreciate it.
And we do, we ask it a lot, and no one has come up with an answer like that, or no one has responded like that. So
I'm not a person who's going to tell you what you can and can't do with your body. And I'm
Yes.
not going to tell a parent what they can or can't do with their child.
Totally.
I don't think that that's fair. I
Yeah.
did not
No.
expect intended. I want them to feel comfortable. I never asked to hold the baby. I never would. I waited until they offered. I didn't expect it. And I was totally fine waiting. And they have been waiting for my intended parents personally. One was 10 years, the other one was 7. Like, they've waited a long time to have their baby in their arms. I am not cutting into that until they are ready to put baby down for a minute and say, hey, would you like to hold baby?
Oh yeah.
And I'm more than happy to hold baby. Of course I want to hold baby, but I don't feel obligated. Like, you don't do it out of obligation. Do it because you genuinely don't mind me holding baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because you're it just sounds like you guys are very, very involved in matching. Most agencies are, I should take that back. Most agencies are, but from just speaking with you, it just seems like there's a whole group of people, a team coming together and going, well, this surrogate should be with this one, and let's just see if that works. And to me, you've already kind of taken the guesswork out of some of it because of your thoroughness, of your questions, of your, let's look at this personality and that personality. So you wouldn't need something like that. Whereas when I did it way back when, and I'll get off the topic in a sec, it was almost necessary because we were not the ones who were. We were what?
You were not the one. You weren't important. I don't mean that in a mean way, but like
we
back
absolutely
then,
were not.
IPs ran the show.
The dollar signs, whoever was writing the checks was the important party, and it was made very, very clear way back then. I'm so happy that it's come so far. I really am. But I really like how involved like you are in making sure that the matches are good, because some agencies just want to get the matches and just get them going, right? Yeah, doesn't sound like that's
so much more than what's on paper. And I tell surrogates and intended parents this all the time. Like, the right match is worth waiting for.
Absolutely.
I cannot
100%.
stress that enough to a surrogate. And sometimes they'll
force the match either.
No, you don't want to
force you don't want to force it. Right.
I mean, are there times where we think, ooh, just because she lives in that state, oh man, that sucks, because y'all would be really, really, really good, so we might be like, ooh, they might regret passing, on this one, but we never, force a match, either. So yeah, but to go back to the whole baby thing, I also agree with Charlene. Like somebody trying to tell me what I need to do with my kids, and especially when they're newborns, you just tend to be way more protective. Over them. Like, it's like telling me that I need to give my kid to somebody that I don't even really, like, them, but you don't know them. And especially if they were a newborn, I didn't even let my mom hold my baby, like, with not being in the same room as me for my very first baby. I was like, wait, you're going to your bedroom with my kid? No. And I would follow her down the hallway so I could never imagine telling an intended parent who had waited or maybe has lost pregnancies, like in their trimester, to say, no, now you have to. But my kids never actually saw the last baby until we went to her first birthday party. Again, I had a COVID baby and pregnancy.
Oh, right.
So my kids weren't at the hospital, and my intended parents left straight from the hospital and drove home. They didn't come to my house or anything.
Right.
And so they never, but my kids, I don't want to say other people's kids aren't educated, but I have let them know, like, this is not ours. This is not brother or sister. This is, and so I would show them pictures, and for them, that was enough. Like, I never felt like we or myself needed this, closure. And I'm on, Facebook with them, so I get to see updates and, the baby. And like I said, I got invited to the first birthday party, so, I couldn't imagine telling somebody that we have had a contract where it was written in 1 or 2 times. But that was, we don't have any parts of legal as far as like telling them what they can and cannot have, because, like, what if you do have a surrogacy journey that was great when you first started, and then towards the middle or end of pregnancy, things kind of go south, and now you have it in your contract that you're going to let this person that you no longer, you know, really respect her or
Totally,
something
yeah.
like that, that you're just gonna let them have your baby for an hour. Like,
Interesting.
that doesn't seem fair or right. So,
Yeah. Okay. That's why we asked, because we know that not
Yeah,
everybody
that's an
agrees with
interesting
it. We've
perspective on it. Yes.
Yeah, because we've
I
dealt
think
with
it's
the
important.
situation.
And
Yeah,
if
it's
you've had a good journey, there really shouldn't be an issue
Right.
with
right, exactly.
visiting and connecting and staying in touch. Even my children have never met my second journey surrogate baby. In fact, I never have outside of the hospital. They left the hospital and went home, and they actually don't live that far. They live about 5 hours away. It's just not kind of how things develop. We still keep in touch every once in a while, and I'll get pictures periodically. I get, birthday texts, Merry Christmas, that kind of stuff. That's just
Yeah.
how it kind of organically developed and
Yeah.
normal, and it's totally fine. But we get pictures. And so my kids know, like, I'll look at a picture and be like, hey, you want to see baby so-and-so? And they're like, wow, he's so big,
Yeah.
My first journey, they live in Germany. So once they returned back to Germany,
wow.
we haven't seen them in person,
Right.
but I get pictures and videos all the time. Love them.
Sweet.
And, my kids get to see it, but they did get to see her when, they stayed in town for about 3 weeks and stuff. So we went to dinner and they came over and, we held baby and that kind of stuff. So it's just very different, but my kids have never had questions or concerns or wonder where the baby's at. It was very clear to them what I was doing, why I was doing it, who I was helping. And then, the pictures were enough as well for them. They didn't need to have any hands-on or one-on-one time with the baby.
and I mean, and I personally don't, and it's just me speaking for myself, don't understand the need to have the by yourself. with the
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. So I'll speak for me, Mom, and then if you want to, you
Yeah.
can too. Because we do get a lot of backlash for it, and we're happy to get the backlash for it. It's not everybody's opinion is valid. It's totally
Absolutely.
not
Yes.
it's not for everybody, and that's okay. And for me personally, I did this when I had a very young child, and I just grew up with surrogacy, and I knew how beautiful it was, and I just really wanted to be like, oh, like I did this. Like this was just like it was an hour. I asked for 1 hour. That was it for after each delivery, not immediately. It was always when, oh, we're going to go put the car seat in the car and we're going to do this. And it's like, fine. Okay. Like that's a good time.
Sure.
I'll introduce my son to this baby and we'll see together. Like this is it. And that's our closure, because my first two families, it's like you, Charlene, they live out of the country. They live completely different country. I've never seen them in person ever again. And then especially on my last journey, it was the worst journey I've experienced, the worst journey I've heard of when it comes to relationships and things like that. And so I was really happy that I had it in there, but at the same time, I just opted out of it because I was just like, no, this isn't worth it. It wasn't important to me. It was more so like, if I view it as, if you can trust me for 9 months where you're not watching over my shoulder how I'm caring for your baby and getting your baby earthside, then you can trust me for 30 to 60 minutes, just introducing my son, just being like, hey, look what we did as a family. Like this baby now gets to go and live this wonderful life with their parents. And my son's not feeling weird, like, why is this couple like watching me? Because I did it for different couples, and
Sure.
we never had close relationships where like, like he actually like knew them. Like we weren't like close friends and stuff like that. So that's where I come from when I ask for the time, but it's never out of maliciousness, or it's never out of like, I don't want you to be around your baby.
I don't think it would be for any surrogate. Honestly,
No, yeah.
I think it's to allow them the closure. And I feel like if it's that important, great, but we should talk about it beforehand. So
Exactly.
that everybody's on the same page. Don't just, oh,
Absolutely.
surprise, this is
Right.
getting stuck
Oh,
into
no.
the
It's in the contract, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So let's talk about it. If that's how
too
you
much.
feel, awesome. But that's why we have those questions in the profiles ahead of time so that they can genuinely answer before there's ever any matching pressure.
I think that
So
that's so phenomenal. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, like,
it
I think
is.
it's so fun. I've never seen a pre-screening or like filling out the forms where it's like, how do you see after baby is born? And I think that would answer so many questions, and that helps with matching, like right off the bat.
I mean, our question specifically asks, what kind of communication and relationship preferences do you have before pregnancy?
Yeah.
What about during pregnancy? What about after pregnancy? Are you comfortable with one or both intended parents being in the delivery room? In the event of a C-section and only one person can go
Right.
back with you, do you have a strong preference of who that would be? Usually it's the GC's partner or husband if she has one, right?
Yeah.
But then if the hospital were to allow an extra person, right? Would you be okay to that? And we talk about this on match calls, because even though it's on paper, it's one thing to read it from someone and, you know, it is what it is. But then when you actually hear them communicate it and see their expression and how genuine they are and what their stance really is and how they truly feel, it provides the other party reassurance that, okay, they didn't just write that down because they thought that's what they were supposed to write. They thought that was the right answer, right? It's their own words and their own emotions and just genuine sense in how they answer, and vice versa. It goes the other way around too. So
Right. And
it's also
very
just-
quickly, way back when I did it, we're talking over 2 decades ago, the attorneys are the ones who suggested it in our situations, in my
and we have
situation.
seen attorneys still suggest it.
Right. And so it was just normal. So it was in one of the triplet pregnancy, like they gave me full access to the NICU. Like I had bands and bands and bands. Like I could come in and they wouldn't, that's how great that relationship was. And I still to this day see those people and converse with them. The other two, not so much. So for me at that point, it was good that it was in the contract because the relationship started out pretty good and it just kind of went south on both of them for really crazy reasons. And we won't need to discuss that, but I do see your perspective. And what I think the main thing here is you guys are really putting it up front. You're getting people to start the conversations ahead of time rather than saying, oh, what do you want in the contract? Oh, what do you want in the contract? And contracts are taking 4 and 5 months, which they shouldn't. So
No.
I think it's really opened my eyes on that.
No, I do like
Absolutely.
how you put it, Nicole, because when
Yeah.
I now address the situation, I can use better wording
Yeah.
in the
Absolutely.
sense, if that
Mhm.
makes sense to
I
explain.
just mean like for my first two, like, I mean, I loved the intended parents and they loved my children, you know, but they also, they did come from, and they were from China. And so like, of course they were here earlier and stuff. They took us out to dinner and stuff like that. But I have no problem. Like, even though they were in the room, they were taking pictures, you know, which I would rather have pictures than alone time so that I can look back. So like the pictures of my kids holding the baby, there's pictures of me holding the baby, you know, there's pictures of me and the intended mother while I'm holding the baby, you know, things like that. And so, but I actually breastfed them, you know, too, which is a hot topic for a lot of people. It wasn't anything I offered up. In fact, I would have rather have probably not because it's painful, but
Interesting.
I'm curious,
But
how did that come to fruition? Did they
Yeah.
ask you in the delivering room prior to?
well, the first one I was pumping, then I ended up getting a clogged milk duct, and that's a whole different story with their little nurse that they picked up. They felt bad for me and they said, hey, Nicole, we heard that if they breastfeed that it could help, you know, with your milk duct. Would you be okay, you know, to see if she would help, you know, be able to release that? They did have a nanny that they picked up in Maryland, and she didn't speak a lick of English, who did try to work out the knot. And then the baby breastfed. And then for the second one, they just asked if I would be okay, you know, breastfeed. So I did feed him in the hospital because I developed mastitis like 3 times for the first time pumping. And so maybe they just felt bad and took pity on me. And I didn't ask for it. I never suggested it. It was never anything that I felt like I needed to do because I personally do not really bond with my own children until the breastfeeding stage for, you know, me. And so obviously that was something I didn't really want, but honestly it was weird. You're like, oh, okay, it's not my baby, but it's, you know.
It's definitely a Chinese baby.
Yeah, exactly. So it was more or less that they just were very mindful of like kind of like I was in pain and they wanted to be able to help. And then also it hurt. They actually literally said it kind of gave them a break too, because then they didn't have to go wash a bottle or warm up any milk, you know, so like it was just kind of a win-win for both of us.
Oh wow. Funny.
We have had surrogates who have breastfed also, and again, it's a topic. They come in. Is that unnormal? You know, is that normal? Is that not normal? Is it common? And we'll tell them like it's not very common in the surrogacy world to actually breastfeed, but it is extremely common to pump. And a lot of times intended parents aren't comfortable with the idea of breastfeeding, but some are. And if it's a question they want us to approach, we will. And, you know, we'll let intended parents. I have noticed that more that like the same sex male couples tend to be a lot more open to that idea and intent matches with intended mothers it's not as common, although we have had a couple, but I don't feel like it's as common. And I totally get it, like kind of the fear of that bond and attachment or something.
Yes.
So it's really just whatever everybody's comfortable with, but we definitely approach
Yeah.
it and don't feel obligated. Like this is something she's willing to do, or this is something they would like you to consider. And, and we just kind of approach the topic from there.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I can answer this next question, but why should someone choose your agency? Like everything that you just said, but
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I know. A, B, C, D, E. But is there anything else that you want to add to that? Like what your agency offers for IPs, surrogates that you guys find really beneficial to them?
I don't think we're the type of agency to sit there and dangle a carrot and try to entice people to choose us. Either we're the right fit for you and the right match for you, or we're not. And if we're not, that's okay.
Yeah.
And, we have had surrogates and intended parents who want to work with us, and we are able to say, I really don't think we're the right fit. Like we can just tell that, yeah. Do you want me to elaborate on that? Because I feel like you're wanting
She
to
will.
ask
So-
me.
Like just one example.
Okay, yeah.
Just one.
So I have had intended parents who want the right to terminate for gender or cosmetic reasons, and we will not work with intended parents who want to hold the right to terminate under those circumstances. It's just doesn't align with what we stand for, and it's their right. I don't want to get into that. I'm not going to dictate what somebody can and can't do. Again, that is not what I'm in the business for.
Right.
But I can tell you, I don't want to facilitate a journey. I don't want to go to a surrogate. I'm not going to be able to reassure her that they're going to get a divorce or separate or some marital issue. And they're going to say, we changed our mind. We don't want to bring a baby into wedlock. We don't want you to turn, like, I can't.
Wow.
And though there's so much more legally, obviously, it's not really an option to do, right? But still, nobody wants that even presented. So I have no problems telling an intended parent that I'm sorry, we're just not the right agency for you. There are other agencies out there who will allow you to have that right.
Yeah.
If you need some recommendations, I can point you in the direction, but we're just not the right ones, because surrogates also come to us with a fear. I heard they could just do this. What if they change their mind? What if they get divorced? We've had that question. What if one passes away and the other one says this? Like there's all these fears that they can just change their mind, or it's not a perfect baby and they can decide to terminate, and the surrogate just has to oblige. Well, no, that's not the case. It's not that simple, but I can tell you the type of intended parents we work with and the type of parents we don't. But I can also tell you the 4 different stances within termination that you can choose to identify with, and that's what we're going to match you with.
Okay.
And so we walk them through that and give them all the reassurance that intended parents aren't just going to go to the ends of the earth to have a child and then throw it away because it's not perfect, right?
Right.
It's just not that approach. So that is the biggest example that I can give you that,
Thank you.
unfortunately, I have had to do
Wow.
more than a handful of times.
So sorry, gosh.
Well, we want to be just as much of a fit for them as they are for us as well. So we definitely encourage surrogates and intended parents. Yes, if you want to shop around, shop around. We want to make sure we're going to be the best fit. We're not on the phone to sit here and try to persuade somebody to use us, who either get this feeling from the consults or the conversations that you have with us, or you don't. Like, we're not going to sit here and say we're the best of the best, because we may not be the best for you. We may not be what you're looking for. We may be too bubbly for you. I don't know. So, I mean, we definitely encourage them to shop around, and see what it is that they like. And sometimes we'll have surrogates come to us, and we're like their 4th or 5th agency, and they just really liked how personable that we were. Same with intended parents, where they'll go and they know they've had interviews lined up for the rest of the week or whatever, and they just were so comfortable with how we answered all of their questions. They didn't feel just like a number. They didn't feel like somebody was just reading from a script and moving on. Like, we sit there and explain everything. Sometimes this is new for people who haven't done so much research, so then we have to go into a lot longer spiel talking about like what type of travel is involved, like when would you need childcare, and things like that, and explaining to them exactly like the whole process, but a lot, more detail on what it actually requires of them. And so a lot of times that's what they appreciate about our agency. It's the communication and our timeliness for, responses and stuff.
It's important.
It's huge.
Everything is, shoot, I can't even think of the saying now. Hurry up and wait. It's all hurry up and wait. So when you
There's
have
a lot of
constant,
hurry up and wait. Yeah.
when you have constant communication, it makes the wait feel a little less
Yeah.
weighty. That's probably
Yes.
a dumb word, but
You
it's
guys
fine.
pay payments through a trust? We didn't even touch on that. Do you use a trust account, like an escrow account?
do.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
We do.
We
We
do.
always use third-party escrow, third-party attorneys. We don't have any of that. We've
Yeah.
had attorneys, we've had, I should say third-party professionals, offer kickbacks or deals or
Mm.
things like this. And I have just said, put it onto our clients. So for example, we have an attorney that we have worked with a lot because we're based in North Carolina. We have a lot of journeys that are in North Carolina and surrounding states. And so he offers our clients a discounted rate, and it's a pretty significant discount.
Oh,
And I
nice.
appreciate that because
Yeah.
I give the options of the attorneys and I can let them know that attorney so-and-so does offer a lower rate because a lot of our clients work with him and he's very grateful for that. And, so, I mean, there's those type of benefits, but we don't do any backdoor deals. I
Okay.
won't do it.
Okay. Nice.
Well, ladies, if somebody wants to be a surrogate with your agency, how do they contact you? Where did they go?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, caringhopesurrogacy.com.
Okay.
So there's obviously intended parents tab, a surrogates tab. We try to keep it nice and simple. If you ever have any questions and you don't want to put in your personal information, there's also a contact tab and you can just freely ask a question and we'll email you back an answer. You can reach out to us on social media as well. Our social medias are very active and we get a lot of positive feedback. People do tend to compliment our social media and how much they love just how much we cheer everybody on. Like we love to share all the milestones and stuff. And so a lot of people do enjoy following it. Even when their journey isn't going so smooth or as planned in the beginning and stuff, it still gives them hope and encouragement. And, there's a reason why we put hope as our
I mean,
name.
surrogates and intended parents will reach out and be like, I've been waiting for my post. It's finally
Uh-huh.
here,
So sweet.
Like when we're like, oh, so-and-so's transfer day, we use initials, obviously we ask permission, but they're like, oh, that's my post. I've been waiting for this.
I know they
That's
get
so
so
cute.
excited. I did have an intended mother who went through 4 failed transfers with a surrogate, rematched, created new embryos, and first transfer took finally. And she was so excited to see that her post finally went up, that they had a positive beta.
So
And
sweet.
just called me crying. And she's like, I see it's up there. I was like, I was just texting it to you.
Oh,
It's finally your
sweet.
time. So
Awesome.
we definitely want to share all the milestones and celebrate. I mean, we are definitely cheering and screaming from the mountaintops with every good one, but we're also shedding tears in the background when they are too. We just hold it together while we're on with them.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
So
Yeah,
you can
that's
reach us on the
hard.
website and on social media, however you want. You can call us. Everything's there. We're pretty easy to get a hold of.
I think our Facebook page actually might have Charlene's number on it and one has my email on it. One of our
That's correct.
social
The
medias
Facebook,
have
yeah.
Charlene's phone number and my email. So that's also another way.
Nice.
okay. Perfect. Well, oh my gosh, thank you so much, ladies. I know it's late where you are,
Yeah.
so we appreciate it.
We do. Totally appreciate it.
Yeah.
Dog
Thank
is
you
over
so
here
much.
trying to escape.
I know how mine jumped on the couch and I'm like trying to keep her at bay.
I'm actually
Like-
surprised mine didn't pay a visit. Mine usually do when they hear voices.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
I locked mine out, so.
Mine usually
mine-
steals the show.
Well, thank you
Yes,
so much
thank
again,
you.
ladies.
Thank
Thanks,
you
guys.
Nice meeting
Have a
you.
good night. Nice meeting you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh. I love everything that they do and how detailed everything is. Like, I
think
wish that
that's
I
really
could fill
cool.
that out and be like, so no, this is how I feel.
Well, I mean, they've got a point. They really, I mean, I actually sat here
No,
and
they have a great point. It's
because I'm like, that's a really good concept.
yeah,
And I know there's
but
other agencies that get it all out there. I get
no,
it.
yeah.
Sometimes it's all discussed in the match meeting. It's not like a questionnaire. Fill this out, fill this out.
But at the same time, so like Nicole's point, yeah, she has a great point, but
Yeah.
also at the same time, like I think it's just how you portray each feeling. So if an intended parent definitely feels like that, and a surrogate definitely feels how like I feel, then like clearly that's just not the right match, and like that's
Clearly.
okay. And I've dealt with that. I've dealt with the whole like, oh, I'm not comfortable. Okay, then that's fine. Like then we're just not the right match for each other. And there's no ill will towards anybody because of it. It's just like, oh, these are the closures that we each need. These are the situations that we each need to,
Right.
you know, end
But-
this journey.
But how Nicole, when she was speaking and she was saying, I wouldn't want somebody to tell me what to do with
Yeah.
and I never really put it that way. I never really looked through those kinds of glasses
Mhm.
and I thought, wow, that's really profound. That makes me think about it a little differently.
Yes
Just a
and
little.
no. We could
Okay.
talk about this forever because
We
I
could,
would
right.
never tell somebody
But
that
if
they
it's
have
in
to
a-
do it.
if
No,
it's
I
in
would
a
never tell
contract-
somebody that they have to do it. I would just say, this is something that I would like. I'm not telling you that you have to do it. I am expressing to you my feelings on the situation. So if you're not comfortable with my feelings and opinion on that, then that's perfectly fine. Because I also put myself, as the surrogate, and I put myself in the intended parent's position. If for some reason I would, become an intended parent one day and it's like, oh, you know what? I understand the closure. I understand and if there's a negotiation on time, there's a negotiation on time. It's not like, oh, I'm asking for like 6 days with your baby. It's,
Yeah.
it's, I don't want your baby. I want the closure and I want the privacy of the closure
Right.
for me and my family. That's all that is.
I totally understand that. I get both sides of it. And I think,
Totally.
but again, coming back to, it makes a lot of sense that they're asking all those questions up front and not even having people talk if they don't even
if
agree
they
on
don't
it,
line up.
right? Yeah.
How beautiful and
Why
perfect.
waste the time, right? Why waste
Get it
the
all out there.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
I love it.
I'm
Okay, well, if
super
anybody,
happy for them.
oh, I
5
know.
years. Super happy for them.
Oh my gosh, I know, 5 years and 111 babies. How exciting.
Unbelievable. That's amazing.
That is
That's
wild.
a huge accomplishment.
Grew 400%. And they just seem like such wonderful human beings.
You can sense the personality,
Yeah. And the
personable.
genuine, it's genuineness.
Genuineness.
Oh.
Genuineness.
Is genuosity not a word?
Yeah, that's a word. Good job. Good job.
Smart. Okay.
Word of the day. Okay.
Oh my gosh, word of the day, guys. Okay. Okay. Well, if anybody would like to share their story, please feel free to reach out to us at Stop.Sit.Surrogate on Instagram. And this has been another episode of Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.